the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Claire Giovino, co-founder and CEO of 50hours.com. Please enjoy Claire Giovino. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I'm chatting with Claire Giovino, co-founder and CEO of 50hours.com. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am thrilled to get the opportunity to chat with you about creativity and how it shows up in the work that you do and in life in general. But before we get there, why don't you take a couple of moments and let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what it is you do?
Yeah, I'm the co-founder and CEO of 50hours.com, with our goal being for all our clients to find 50 hours worth of time that we can take back from them, take off their to-do list, off of their busy plate, so they get 50 hours back in their month at a minimum. That's always the starting point, which then begs the question, once you get all that time back, what are you going to do with it? And so I'm very excited that we get to talk about creativity today, because that's what a lot of our clients are looking for. How do I get the email, the calendar, the admin, all of these things that are very much not often creative off my plate, so I can refocus on what matters most to me, create the things I want to create. And that's ultimately the heart of 50 hours.
I love that. I can't tell you how often I hear from people, I would do more creative things if I had more time. And so hearing that there are people like you out in the world creating things to support individuals to get back some time, what an amazing gift to be able to do that. And can you tell us a little bit about how did this come about? How did 50hours.com start? Were you struggling with your own lack of time, or where did it all begin?
I actually began in academia. I was an English teacher. So the university I was teaching at was about an hour away. So I had this long 2-hour round trip commute every day. And on this commute, I began listening to entrepreneurial podcasts. And this was around the time, this was like 10, 11 years ago, around the time of Tim Ferriss coming on the scene with 4-Hour Work Week.
Mm.
And so this idea was introduced to me of not necessarily trading time for money anymore. Like it blew my mind at the time. And so I started pitching myself to these podcast hosts, to blog authors that I was reading. I was just trying to consume as much of this information as I could as a teacher, very much not with an entrepreneurial background,
Mm.
and began as a ghostwriter. So just started taking on whatever clients I could in whatever capacity.
Mhm.
And then one of the clients I pitched to was the host of a podcast called Entrepreneur's Journey.
Hmm.
He brought me in and I started doing, several things in his business. As you know, as trust is built, it's very easy to grow that client relationship.
Sure.
And I kept looking at different parts of his business, and we delegated all the parts of his business up to the point of email. And he said, this is still the sticking point where the more successful I get, the more emails I get. This catch
Mhm.
22. And so I got in there, created some systems, ended up bringing on an assistant to take over those systems. And we got him to the point of only checking his email once a month, and then eventually not at all. And
Wow.
that was the final piece that just freed him up completely, where he had this business that now ran completely without his involvement,
Mhm.
other than the parts he wanted to step in on, which was coaching or designing new curriculum or the creative parts.
Mhm.
So we then rolled that out as beta um, a beta option to some of the entrepreneurs in his network. They
Mhm.
loved it, and then it very organically grew into 50hours.com. Next year will be our 10th year in business. And it's just been a joy to work with such a variety of clients, all different industries, but who are all looking to regain their time so they can give their time to what they actually want to be doing.
That is amazing. And do you do the same in your own life, or is have you regained your time?
Very much so. I have my own assistants. So 50hours.com is learning all about you and your business and then assigning assistants to you with our
Mm,
proprietary matching process.
hmm
North American, so it's all Canadian and US based assistants who then slowly take over more and more parts of your life. So, yes, I
mm,
do have my own assistants. They're incredible. And what it's allowed me to do is just show up on exactly calls like these, which I
mm,
love to do. Just show up for coaching, for consulting on
hmm
webinars. And then everything else behind me is taken care of by these amazing assistants who truly I communicate more with at this point than like other people in my life.
Sure. Well, I'm glad to hear that you two are benefiting from having the extra support. I'm curious, with all of the things that you do and where your background is and where you're headed in the future, what does it mean to you to be creative?
I love this question because my definition has definitely shifted with time, depending on the phase of life I'm in.
Hmm
So as of now, it's very much for me, creativity is turning thought into reality and into a
Mm,
reality that can be experienced by other people. And so if I have an idea, one of my favorite examples being in the early days of this business, when a client would ask if we had something, I would very often say, "We will by tomorrow." Like it doesn't exist yet, but give me a
sure.
minute. And very many business owners operate similarly. But
hmm
that idea of having the thought and then turning it into a lived reality, whether that's in a book, in a song, in a piece of art, in a conversation like you and I are having right now,
hmm
you're like speaking something into existence. And I think the more quickly you can turn the thought into a reality, the more successful you become because you're able to then test very quickly.
mm
Is this profitable? Does it resonate with others who are experiencing it? Is there something here? And then you can build off of it, or you
hmm
can pivot and try to create something else.
Mm, so
And where
true.
I see a lot, as I'm sure you know, a lot of creators get stuck in that space between
Yeah.
thought and reality. And so the quicker you can move through that space, I find the more prolific of a creator you become.
Mm-hmm. What happens for you when there are some hiccups in between the idea and the action or the manifestation or the physical whatever it is? I think so many people have different ways of getting stuck. What are some of the pieces for you, and how do you move around them or through them?
I think my resistance early on was fear of being seen. I'm a
Mm,
very private person naturally. And so I
hmm
think putting your art out into the world is inherently vulnerable because you're
Yeah.
saying, this is an expression of me, an extension of me, and it means this much to me that I want to share it, but it can be scary to be seen. I
hmm
think advice I love is doing something so many times to the point where it almost becomes boring because you've just done it over and over and over again. I've experienced that with public speaking. I do a lot of talks, which of course involves a lot of creativity in
hmm
crafting a talk and just noticing how much easier it gets to get on stage, obviously, the more you do it. But resistance also in time. I see a lot of resistance around, will this be a waste of time? People really don't want to
Mm,
waste their time. Or it can mean so much to so many, their creativity and what they want to create, that it's often the last thing that they'll tend to or devote
Hmm.
time and energy to because it means so much to them. And so again, this is where I've seen 50 hours be really beneficial is we remove a lot of the excuses to now go do
Sure.
the thing that you actually want to be doing, like writing the book or building the new business or pursuing the passion project, whatever it might be.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of
There's
sense.
Yeah, this concept too I've seen of sneaky productivity, which is actually like a form of sneaky procrastination where you can
Oh.
look really productive, but you're actually just procrastinating, doing the thing that feels very important. Like, as a business owner, maybe it's jumping on those sales calls and just selling your products. Then maybe
Mm.
you're going to do the lower stake things of admin work or calendar management because it's not the thing will actually affect your bottom line and move the needle in your business. And same, separate from business in a creative sphere, my house gets very clean when I'm putting off writing because writing is the thing I love to do most. But it's a little
Sure.
sneaky procrastination to look out for.
Yeah, I can so appreciate the sneaky procrastination. It comes in many shapes and forms. Oh, the laundry pile that I haven't looked at in weeks now needs
Mhm.
my full attention. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. When, designing, you talk about kind of a perfect day. Could you walk us through a little bit of that with how you talk to people about what that looks like or how you go about creating that?
Yeah, this is a process we go through with our clients, and then also with the amazing assistants that we hire as well, because they
Mhm.
get to take on as many or as few hours as they want with us and design their perfect days. So it works on both sides. But it really, when you think about perfect day, you want whatever your starting point is, whether you're a business owner or employee or freelancer, think about what are the 3 to 5 things that would make your day perfect to you. And often it's not as far away as many people think it is. So
Mhm.
I would love to know yours. For me, it's spending time with people I love, spending time with my animals, writing, reading, and then coaching my leadership team,
Mhm.
um, and some form of activity. Those 5 to 6 things, truly, if I get them done in a day, I've had an amazing day. And so, first, identifying what those are. Color coding is very helpful for seeing the different realms of your life represented. So, if you're color coding your calendar, that can be a really cool visual representation of,
Mhm.
am I truly dedicating time to the social, the business, the health, the exercise,
Mm.
or is the business all dominating here? Themed days are really helpful, especially if you have
Mm.
multiple projects you're working on. So Mondays, which is the day we're recording this on, is very much a creative conversation day for me. So it's the day I'll take podcasts, do webinars. Fridays, I have a no message policy day. So I'm not doing any virtual communication. It's just all deep creative work. So themed days can be really helpful. So those are always the starting points, and then also looking at how your energy ebbs and flows throughout the day. So there's a lot of focus on time management. There's
Mhm.
not as much focus on energy management. And so doing an energy audit and seeing when does your energy really peak in the day, when does it dip, and then slotting in tasks accordingly as best as you're able to, for utilizing and optimizing your energy.
That yes, to all of that. The energy management piece, I look at often when I work with people in creativity because there is for sure certain parts of the day where we have more energy, where daydreaming, different aspects of creativity may feel a little more alive. So I can absolutely relate to that energy management piece as well. And, you know, really solidifying those parts of our day, but also seasonally too, because I think for many of us, creativity can ebb and flow with the seasons as well.
Absolutely, and not ideally wasting energy beating yourself up for the slow seasons because,
Right.
the plant doesn't produce flowers all year long. It is just a specific time that you need all the dormant periods too to produce that fruit.
Exactly. Yeah. To to align with that, I think can be really helpful. Um, well, having gone from one industry to another, what was that transition like for you, being in academia to then going into this kind of founder CEO world, co-founder CEO world of what was that like, and how did you kind of maintain your own creative v- life through that transition?
Yeah, this goes back to your question earlier of what does creativity mean? And I think a lot of the answer also has to do with problem solving. So
Mm,
that's the through line through it all. When I was working with my students, it's how do we get them to a specific grade in this class, or how do we improve this part of their writing, or how
hmm
do we help them achieve their goals for further into their degree? And so just transferring problem solving, I'm really into word swapping, and so you can call it stepping stones or goal setting, whatever's helpful for you. But I know there can be sometimes connotations around specific words. So find the words that help you most. And for me, it happens to be problem solving, where the more problems I solve, the more equipped I feel to move through life, believing that everything is figure outable. So that was the through line between two very different industries. Was now I have these new problems, both in the business itself and my clients' problems that I was taking on. How do I help solve their problems? And the thing that kept me moving forward was always experiments and looking at it like an
Mm,
experiment. So, in the beginning, when we were in that beta phase, it was just me. I was managing the inboxes and calendars and internal operations of our first 4 or 5 clients and staying up till 3 a.m. every night. And just, what have I done? I went from my class courses to this. And I just kept giving myself, okay, give it 3 more months and see where you're
mm,
at. If you hate it in 3 months, we'll pivot.
mhm,
But at the end of each of those 3 months, at those check-in points, there I could always see progress
mm.
and always see growth. And that kept me going. And next year will be 10 years.
That's amazing that 10 years has already elapsed, and the amount of individuals that you and your organization, company are supporting is wonderful. What are some of the pieces, like, what are some of the things that your clients are wanting to get back aside from time? Like, once they get that time back, are you also there to support them to kind of enhance other parts of their life? Or is this just once they have the time, you've taken that, you've given that back to them? That makes sense.
Yeah. Most of our clients, they'll start in the business realm. So we'll start with the obvious, like email. And we do start in the inbox because, as I'm sure you know, it's such a hub and
Mhm.
such a a pot of resources and context. So you can
Mhm.
just searching find so much about their role, their business, their relationships, their customers, their tech stack, all filters back into the inbox usually. So we start there, and because it's the last area that people will often let go of, we found it builds trust really quickly too. If they see that this can be taken over successfully
Mm,
and often better than they can, then they're more likely to trust us with more in their businesses and in their lives to
mhm,
answer your question. And so once we've helped with the business, it very often organically moves out into their personal life as well, where we can start booking appointments for them, we can start
mm,
scheduling dates for them, we can start scheduling vacations for them. And it's really the sky's the limit for how it
mm,
just depends how much you want to delegate, how much of your time you want to buy back and are able to afford to buy back.
mhm,
And yeah, we with through this perfect day coaching, that's where we really start looking at too. Okay, great. I have these wide open days now. What do I do with it? Because as you said, time alone isn't the goal, it's how we fill our time.
Hmm.
And so that's some of the questions we do in the onboarding process is if you got those 50 hours back each month as a starting point, what
Hmm.
would you do with them in your ideal outcome?
Yeah, I love that how it's expanding into the rest of life, not just the inbox or the business side of things too. I think that's so important. For you in your own life, what are the pieces that you really are looking forward to creatively or kind of the next things that you have on your horizon?
I'm writing a book right now. I'm writing a novel and I'm
Mm.
writing a nonfiction book about designing your perfect day. And so that's been quite the undertaking and in outlining and then also pitching it. You know, with nonfiction, you craft a book proposal to pitch it. And with the novel, you have to have the finished manuscript before you start pitching to agents. So
Hmm.
that's been very fun. And it's exactly I I use my own service and that's why, I'm very anti pushy sales. If it's useful for you, great. If not, great. But because
Hmm.
it's so easy, I want everyone to experience this level of freedom because once you trust an assistant enough to delegate parts of your life out, it does open up all of these hours for me to do the exact thing I want to do, which is write. So right
Hmm.
now I'm writing constantly. But I will say part of this process is not only delegation, your assistants are going to walk through with you what should we actually just eliminate because you don't want to just
Mm.
delegate everything. Maybe there's stuff on here that doesn't even need to be here. We want to achieve excellence with as few details as possible, but get every detail right. So we look,
Mm.
at delegation, we look at elimination, and then we look at automation. So that's where
Mm.
AI can come in, where your assistant can help you set that up, optimize for it if you choose to use it. There's
Hmm.
definitely a mix of clients who want to adopt it, clients who don't want to touch it,
Sure.
and you can take that part off your plate as well.
Do you have examples of like eliminate, like what are those things people are eliminating that others may not be thinking of?
The inbox specifically being this never ending, unsolicited, here's more
Mm.
things to put on your plate.
Hmm.
It's not every message needs a response. And that sounds quite, obvious, but isn't for
Hmm.
many clients. And that does this necessarily warrant a response?
Mm.
Just because it found its way into my inbox, which is your personal property,
Right.
or can this be an archive? And then, just because everyone asks for a call and asks for time on your calendar, again, with your time being your most precious currency, does
Hmm.
everyone is everyone able to make it into your calendar? And so
Mm.
your assistants will work with you on making those decisions. And you can still, send polite no's and all of those gentle rejections, of course. But looking at things like that and cleaning up your tech stack, do we actually need every software platform here? Can we eliminate a
Mm.
few and tighten things up and streamline your workflows more?
Hmm.
Little eliminations like that can make a big difference.
Absolutely. I thank you for kind of that example. I think that can be helpful. In kind of your writing fiction and nonfiction and the other creative pieces you have in your life that you said playing with your animals, spending time connecting with people. I'm curious for you, who or what is sparking inspiration in your life these days?
Oh, at the risk of this sounding how it may sound, it has been myself because
Love
I
that.
very hard to keep promises that you make to yourself. I think it tends to be easier to keep the promises you make to other people because
Mm.
there's that external accountability built in,
Hmm.
which, as an aside, is why bringing on assistance can be so helpful because you have that immediate built in external accountability. And it's not just you alone anymore, but
Hmm.
that in every time I make a promise to myself and follow through on it, it creates this portfolio of proof that
Mm.
I am someone that I can rely on and I am someone who follows through on things.
Mm.
And I don't think anything builds confidence more effectively than that, because you're just creating example after example of you can figure things out, you can do hard things, and you can
Mm.
keep your promises to yourself. Separate from that, my parents are amazing because they debunk the idea that you get set in your ways as you get
Mm.
older. They're just continually growing and expanding and very much inspire me.
I love that. And I really appreciate the keeping promises to yourself or that you inspire yourself because I think we often breeze past ourselves and have a more external, I have to find it outside of me, but I truly believe that inspiration gets to come from within us just as much as outside of us. So I fully support the keeping promises to yourself.
I'm curious too what your perfect day would be. What would it include?
Oh, for me, my perfect day. Definitely moving my body in some way, getting outside, deep connection with other humans, and creativity in any form, whether it's getting dressed, cooking, or having conversations about creativity with other people. Um, those are the pieces that really fuel me, and I feel very satisfied when all of that gets to align.
Love that.
Yeah. And I feel very privileged that everything I just listed are things that I get to do every day and incorporate in some way in my life. And that's really special. And yeah, I feel like I get to live my perfect day quite often. So
Mm, amazing.
yeah. Well, for people who might be struggling to identify their perfect day or figure out, or maybe have a lot of financial or time constraints or other things going on in their life, how would you encourage them to take one step towards creating this perfect day idea?
Yeah, the first best step is to time track for
Mm.
even if it's just a week. We do this with calories, we do this
Mhm.
with our budgets. We much less often do it with our time. So there's
Mhm.
an app I love called Hours Tracker, not affiliated anyway, but it's free and simple. And you can just clock in, clock out of tasks throughout the day and just label what you're doing, because it's very easy, just like money, to think that your money is going to certain places, but then when you really open it up and look at your statements, it reveals what's true. And
Right.
so in the same way, clocking your time, it's a bit tedious, but you only have to do it for a week to truly get a representation, a very clear representation of where your time is actually going. And we can get more money, we can't get back more time. And so I would argue it's the more valuable currency.
Mm.
um, and then when you're ready, pull in help, because you
Mm.
want to get yourself as far as you can on your own. And then the benefits compound once you bring in help, like bringing on assistance. And I know there can be a tipping point with creatives and entrepreneurs of getting to the point where they're able to afford to buy back their time.
Mhm.
Um, but going back to a question you said earlier, you're not only getting back your time, very often the assistants you'll work with at 50 hours find ways to make the plan either pay for itself or make you more money in the long run, because they're spotting opportunities and
Mm.
capitalizing or optimizing those opportunities and following up with opportunities and contacts that you might have missed or not have had time for on your own. So uh, easy first step, and then bigger long-term step to work toward as well.
Love that, and love the opportunity to, get that extra support and time, and sounds like opportunities for financial support as well. So love all of those pieces. Claire, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I have learned quite a bit about everything that you do and how I can look at time in a different way in my own life. I have one last question. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
I feel very awake
Mm.
and I get a bit of time blindness. We all know the idea of flow. And
Mhm.
so just entering that state where I know we've talked about time a lot in this episode, but where time actually ceases to exist. And I think it's, as I get older, time is moving much more quickly just because
Mhm.
I've lived more of it. And so,
Yeah.
1 year in the span of my life is a lot shorter than when you're a child. And so I think creativity is a really beautiful way to elongate time as well
Mm.
because you're entering that flow state and it instead of days and routines just zipping by where you almost forget like what did I even do this week. And when you're entering creativity, it's that quote writers love to have written
Mhm.
or apply it anywhere. Painters love to have painted or musicians love to have created music. You get to look back and see the fruits of where your time went
Mm.
and this uh, uh, just beautiful trail behind you of what you've created along the way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for taking the time to join us today and share all of these tips and pieces about yourself and the work that you do. If people want to learn more about your company and the pieces you have out in the world, how could they go about doing that?
They can go to 50hours.com. It's 50hrs.com. You can book a free call there and see if hiring an assistant with us is a good fit. We do 2 assistants per account very intentionally because that way there's never a lapse in your service. So if one never needs to take a vacation or they have an emergency or for some reason they get pulled away and to a different opportunity, your service never stops. And it's this beautiful way of getting a team working for
Mm.
you overnight for the same price. Or if you want to do more of the DIY option, you can go to 50hours.com, 50hrs.com/playbook and download the very extensive playbook on how to hire and delegate to an assistant on your own.
Beautiful. Well, I will put links in show notes so people have very easy access. And thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
I have too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.